Hey, deserving listeners, Last Resort 90-Day Fiancé. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. If you are a cast member of this show or any of the shows that I watch, do not consider what I'm saying to be a replacement for a proper assessment or for in-person therapy. I am watching it edit. I don't know what's going on with you. So, maybe it's a starting point, a conversation with your therapist, but definitely not a replacement. Let's watch.
There's no question that he doesn't love you. I know he loves you. I know that. He just has a weakness, like a lot of men do.
That's an obsession.
Okay, so I've been talking about triangulation a lot. There's a lot of triangles that are occurring. All the people there, including the camera people, are being triangulated in to some extent. What do you do with that invitation into the triangle? Do you help? Do you not help? Do you destroy? Do you sabotage? And for Ed, he is doing what he's doing. It's unclear as to whether or not that would help or not. It could help. It could help to kind of get the ball rolling, but it could also just solidify or perpetuate the problem. It's kind of a message to Yara, which makes sense it would be coming from Ed, that she just needs to move on and forgive him. He's saying he's sorry, so let's move on. And I don't think that would, given what we've seen in the edit, I don't think that solves anything. In fact, it would, I think, make matters worse because it further solidifies the precedent that Jovi can do whatever he wants and resort to his strategy of some various different smoke screens, and Yara is the ridiculous one. So I don't know. But it's also possible that Ed saying this would help the two of them to actually talk, because that's what you want, is that they have the ability to hear each other. Yara could be softened by what Ed said and then say, okay, yes, okay, Jovi, yes, you do love me, and da-da-da-da.
Welcome back, Jovi. We love you. We're just trying to help each other, and you're most voice.
I don't feel like everybody's trying to help me, to be honest. I feel like Ed's just trying to put me in a worse situation than I'm already in.
No, Ed was honest.
Jovi, why are you mad at me? Why are you mad?
Okay, so a pretty classic smokescreen and undifferentiated triangulation observation is that when you have tension, you will try to triangulate a third, either subconsciously or consciously, or the system will actually conspire to make sure that there's a triangle. I want to be clear that when people triangulate, it's not always something that one person, like right now, Jovi is triangulating directly with Ed, but particularly in ongoing systems, family systems, work relationship systems, there will be routines that the system just knows to do, because as tension happens, we want that triangulation to happen subconsciously so that the tension goes down. We don't care if it causes a perpetuation of the problem or the anxiety. We just want the peak of this very noticeable tension to go away. So there are a couple things happening right now that we can point to regarding systems theory. One is that Ed is often the scapegoat, so Jovi, might be trying to engage Ed as a scapegoat to deflect from him, because Jovi right now would feel like the scapegoat because he's the one that everyone is attacking. So he might be trying to deflect everyone. It's like, hey, Ed's usually the one that we hate, right? So it's either subconscious or conscious. The other mechanism is triangulation, which he is trying to poke at Ed. And if there's a conflict between Ed and Jovi, then the conflict between Jovi and Yara will be eclipsed by that. And Yara might even come in and save Jovi from the conflict between Ed and Jovi, because Jovi knows that Yara doesn't like Ed. You know what I'm saying? So he comes in and just starts to blame Ed. Now, consciously, it makes sense. The whole thing did start with Ed because Ed just brought up the Jamaica text thing, right? And it wouldn't have happened otherwise. But to blame someone for... Now, in certain circles, you will find that. You'll find, oh, he's a snitch. He doesn't have bros before hoes, that kind of thing. And, it depends on the situation. But given the scenario that the cat's out of the bag, that Jovi would having walked away and gathered his thoughts that this is the first thing that he's doing, it's not a good sign for Yara anyway, because it would have been a better sign is if he sat down and took responsibility and apologized in the way I role played earlier. Now later on a different day, he could go to Ed and be like, dude, like, what are you doing? Now, that's not ethical. And if I were in Ed's shoes, I'd be like, look, I'm not going to lie for you. I'm friends with Yara as well. I don't approve of that kind of behavior. So either don't do it or don't expose me to that, because I'm going to feel compelled to tell Yara about it. Not only just because I'm friends with Yara, but it's also a matter of principle that I don't stand by while someone lies and does hurtful things behind someone's back. I just feel like it's my human obligation to right that wrong if I can.
Mad at me.
I'm not mad at you. I just
Own
feel like
your behavior.
it was unnecessary. That's it.
Oh, really?
It's unnecessary to put between them to bring him to the street so she gets mad.
Why don't you explain to your daughter where you were? What your daughter?
Okay, so this is interesting that either Jovi knew that all he had to do was poke Ed slightly and Ed would would force himself into the triangle, and so he knew he didn't have to do much, or Jovi actually isn't actively trying to fully triangulate with Ed, and Ed is actually wanting to triangulate himself for a variety of reasons. Maybe because he likes the feeling of Jovi being the scapegoat instead of him, and so he wants to go after him. Or the tension and the lack of difference, because they've been stuck on a boat. They can't get away. What I'm guessing to be hours, given the sun cycle that we've been seeing, and given my experience with hearing about how these things are, the scene is like 15 minutes, but they could have been out there for 5 hours plus. So it's possible that for Ed, the amount of lack of differentiation has been mounting, and he is starting to lose focus. As we lose differentiation, we lose our ability to problem solve and make decisions. We will not see the bigger picture. The bigger picture for everyone, including Liz, that's trying to stop him right now, is, look, I get it. You're right, Ed, but this isn't the time. Just let it go. It's not going to help anything. Jovi has his issues. Let Jovi and Yara work it out. He's just trying to provoke you. You don't need to fight this one. But for Ed, he might normally, in a differentiated state, also have that point of view. But due to his lack of differentiation, because the more time you spend in a system, particularly with a lot of tension, it becomes harder and harder to think straight with the bigger picture in mind. So he's seemingly forcing himself into the triangle right now. And so what will happen is there'll be, the anxiety is moving around. The anxiety will now be between Ed and Jovi and no longer between Jovi and Yara. And so we'll see, we'll watch how systems morph over time, and we'll see what Yara does to respond to their conflict. So Yara would be invited into their conflict. She could involve herself in a variety of ways. She could side with Jovi. She could fight against Ed. She could, not physically, of course, but you know what I'm saying. Yara could walk away. Yara could just stand there and throw her hands up. So let's see what she does.
Why don't you explain to your daughter where you were? What your daughter about your...
And specifically, like, his daughter? What the fuck is wrong with you? His daughter, is 2 years old-ish? Maybe 3? Even if the daughter was 22, why is that? If your point, Ed, is, hey, you have a duty as a father to be an upstanding father, and so I think you have an obligation to your wife and to your daughter to do the right thing. Okay. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. If you're anything like me, your relationships are very important to you. And really, most of the reason why I make content, and perhaps a lot of the reason why you're here with me today, is to think about your relationships. And evidence shows that strong attachments contribute to all sorts of positive outcomes, like improved well-being or happiness, lowered anxiety, lowered depression, better relationships with your kids. Now, one type of relationship that we're often talking about here is romantic relationships or soulmates. I would say that a huge factor in the success of my relationship with my wife has to do with all the therapy that I've been through. Well, one place you can find a therapist to help with that is at BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, it's definitely worth giving a try. So become your own soulmate, whether you're looking for one or not. Visit betterhelp.com/Kirk today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Kirk.
Bring my daughter into this mess. Get
Say it, dude.
I will punch you in the face if you bring up my daughter.
Joey, sit the down.
You bring my
Okay, well, that's new. So Jovi doesn't like Ed, generally speaking, right? And Ed was completely out of line. And we're seeing the triangulation. We're seeing Liz pulled in to the triangle. And we're seeing that Jovi is saying, don't talk about my daughter. Yeah. For some people, they consider speaking about family members as some massive transgression, which not everyone holds. Like if I were in Jovi's shoes and Ed were to say that to me, I'd be like, huh, my daughter? What are you talking about? I'm not going to tell my daughter. She's a child. She wouldn't understand what's your point? But for other people to bring up one's daughter, just even to talk about the daughter, particularly in a pointed, conflictual manner like this, it's akin to, I don't know, it reminds, I love The Sopranos, at least certain segments of I'm a guy, so I guess that's part of my mandate. I'm not all men. Certainly some women like Sopranos, but a lot of my guy friends are also really into Sopranos. And there's this code in at least the Sopranos universe in which you can go after the guy, but you can't go after his mother or his wife or something. You know, there's certain lines. You can absolutely do whatever you want to the guy that you want to get. You can torture him, you can kill him, you can take his money, you can blow up his restaurant. But if you even slightly bother the man's mother or sister, I guess it's mostly women, right? Because, yeah, in the show you could go after brothers and not sons necessarily, not minors. But anyway, there's this code that you have to follow, and if you break that code, then all bets are off. Then everyone agrees that Ed deserves to be punched and thrown off of the boat. And it's a value. It's an honor culture value often. So I don't know if that's what we're seeing. Jovi gave Ed a chance to pull back. Ed didn't need to say that, so Ed deserves to be confronted. But violence is not the answer, and it seems to be escalating to that.
daughter into this. This your ass, Ed.
Bring it on.
I will up.
Joey, Ed.
Okay, and then we see the helpers, the producers, at least one of the big ones, step in, and that often does indicate that it's real. You could imagine that being staged, but I don't know. Typically, in the scenes where I've seen one of the producers, one of the workers intervene, it definitely looked real to me, like with Andre and Charlie, like with Nicole and Azan. I mean, I know they had a physical altercation because Nicole was being hands-on with Azan, and I think someone got involved. With Angela and Michael, did someone get involved when they were in Africa and she attacked him? Anyway, that did look real. Jovi and Ed, they'll just continue to have. This just means that they'll be invited back on another season so that they can have their next drama, or they'll have therapy. They'll be like guys there. I don't know.
You bring my daughter into this? This your ass, Ed. I am dead serious.
All right, well, own your man.
I will you up. If you bring my daughter into this situation, I will you up.
What's up?
And it could be a way for Jovi to prove to Yara that he cares. He feels he needs to do this, or he's trying to deflect. He's trying to create another problem to eclipse his problems. I don't know.
Joey, Ed!
Now, mother.
Stop it.
Bring it on.
Stop it, dude. I respect what you tell me, but do not bring my daughter into this meeting.
And there we got it. So the triangle worked itself out so that she is now on Jovi's side and fighting against the normal scapegoat, which is Ed. Earlier I talked about we'll see what Yara does when this triangle, because originally it's Jovi and Yara are definitely the fighters, and everyone else is triangulated in. Ed volunteered and was also provoked. First Ed tried to intervene by saying, "Hey, he loves you." So he's already kind of involved and lacking differentiation in that way, potentially in a helpful move, hard to say. And then Jovi comes back and says something to Ed. Ed's already involved, I guess, so it motivates him more. Ed is instantly triggered for some weird reason and starts going after, and then Jovi matches and escalates from there. And the question is, okay, the tension is moved from between Jovi and Yara to Ed and Jovi. What is Yara going to do? Because if Yara is on Jovi's side, particularly if this kind of puts the matter to rest that Jovi did something bad and there's going to be no more conversations and motivation from Yara around like, hey, we still have to address the lies and the way you've been treating me, not just this moment, but all the other moments. If all that has been eclipsed by the current physical fight, then the triangle worked systemically to return everything back to homeostasis. And so nothing will have to change, nothing will change. And Yara and Jovi are right back to where they started. And it's just a matter of time before the cycle comes back around and Yara's sitting in the same seat. Some other triangle will happen and, rinse and repeat.
That's a sensitive topic.
Ed just doesn't know when not to cross the line. He continues to bring up stuff about other people when he's...
More commonly, what will happen in families is in a marriage when I landed on a weird frame there.
He's got more.
That the parents will scapegoat and fight against the child, and the child will volunteer. It's a classic presentation of a triangle and of a systemic routine that you will have a child as young as, say, 2 years of age that is witnessing tension or hearing about fighting between their parents, and the child is terrified of that. It's very scary to them. It's concerning to them. And the child will experiment with a lot of different behaviors. Children do that. That's what they're put on this planet to do, is to experiment and try all sorts of things physically and with objects and with interactions and speech and thinking and da-da-da. And they learn that when they do something naughty, that the parents stop fighting. It's a bad thing because the kid is now in trouble, but overall, the tension is far lower. The child would much rather be in trouble than to watch their parents fighting. So the child starts to learn, if I'm naughty, if I scream or I take some crayons and start drawing on the wall or I push sister over, then I find that things are better. It's not a conscious choice. It can be, but it could also be, because rinse and repeat 24/7, you're with your family, you're there all the time, and all these behaviors happen throughout the day. The parents are fighting kind of, and experiment with all these things, and neurologically a child will just learn whenever there's tension, I need to misbehave. And then the problems generate from there, right? The parents never work on their issues, maybe not even have time to work on their issues because the child is constantly in trouble. This is something that I would see very frequently, and all family therapists would see, because they don't bring the family doesn't seek therapy in that scenario. They don't seek therapy when the child is 7 and is not paying attention in class, but is not creating too many problems, because 7-year-old kids don't typically have huge problems. When they will call us is when the child is 13, 14 And the rebellion that's been around and been trained into the child since they were 2 starts to result in some very concerning behaviors, dealing weed out of the basement, stealing cars, skipping school, running away for a week, and getting in fights at school, shoplifting repetitively. That's when they realize something. That's the first time they think, oh, something's wrong. They might even interact with the justice system. That's when they call me and other family therapists. We get involved, and then we have to untangle that whole thing. It takes a long time. So it's much better if people can have that knowledge and awareness and therapy in the beginning, maybe even before they even get married. You can nip it in the bud. Trying to solve that problem, trying to solve a 13-year-old's behavioral problems after maybe multi-generations of lack of differentiation is very, very hard. It's not impossible, but it's hard. It's certainly not possible for the parents to drop off that kid in my office for a month and have me fix them. You understand that, right? All right. Well, if you want to, you can go to our channel and go to the community tab, I think it's called. I don't know. There's a few tabs that will have stuff on there that you might not get in your feed. Member videos, polls, posts, that kind of stuff. I will often post polls to you to find out what you want me to watch next. So a lot hinges on y'all seeing that, because whatever gets the most votes. And by the way, if I haven't already, just to let you know what I'm working on, I'm also going to finish Brandon and Mary. I think there's stuff left there. I might have already finished it by the time this episode gets posted, but I am also working on the poll winner regarding a member video for Healthy Gamer. Dr. K has a video that everyone wanted me to watch and react to. And there's a bunch of other things that won on the. I can't see where I'm looking at my list. I don't see it. But anyway, I'm also working my way through couples therapy, watching Sean and Erica. It's been really interesting. If you're not a member, just to let you know what is in those member videos. It's just a lot of stuff that I don't usually get to talk about on these reality TV shows, because couples therapy is actual couples therapy, and so there's a lot of things that I'm reminded of or am prompted to talk about that I never get a chance to talk about. So it's pretty interesting to me anyway. There's a lot of interest for me watching that show. Anyway, and everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.